Welcome to Live Long Better. Live longer, age better. A brand new fitness feature from the Not Old Better Show and the American Council on Exercise, ACE. This is where science meets strength, and aging is just another word for thriving. Joining us always is Dr. Sabrena Jo, Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. She's here to break down the real research and share how movement, mindset, and motivation can help you live longer and age better. Get ready to move smarter, feel stronger, and live fully. And now, here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2026. I'm so glad you're here with us on Live Long Better, part of the Not Old Better Show with the American Council on Exercise. Of course, our ongoing guest host is Sabrena Jo. She's going to be joining us in just a moment. I'm Paul Vogelzang, and today's episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth, comfort that elevates every day. UNWRAP unmatched softness this season. You know, as we step into a brand new year, 2026, it's tempting to make grand plans, big promises, and bold resolutions. I do that sometimes, but today we're going to do things a little differently. No pressure, no reinvention, just thoughtful reflection, meaningful movement. Of course, this is part of Live Long Better, and a focus on what's already working. You'll hear us talk about resetting, not restarting. And joining us is our returning friend and trusted expert, Dr. Sabrena Jo, the Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. Dr. Jo has a gift for cutting through the fads and fluff. And today, she's helping us shift away from the typical new year, new you mindset and towards something far more powerful: continuity, confidence, and connection. In this episode of Live Long Better, Dr. Sabrena Jo shares how adults over 55 can use movement, social connection, and real-life motivation to better support health without the burnout. She'll bust a few fitness myths for us, offer science-backed strategies you can actually stick with, and remind us all that aging well isn't about starting over. It's about moving forward with purpose. So, whether you're walking with a friend, stretching in your living room, or simply taking stock of the year ahead, this one's for you. Let's get started with Dr. Sabrena Jo from the American Council on Exercise. Of course, I'm Paul Vogelzang. This is Live Long Better, part of the award-winning Not Old Better Show series. Let's welcome Dr. Sabrena Jo. Dr. Sabrena Jo, Happy New Year. Good to see you. So nice to talk to you. I love the new year, and so I just welcome you heartily. How's that?
Well, I appreciate it. Happy New Year to you. I also love the new year. It's also, January is my birthday month, so I'm not complaining there.
Yep. Well, happy birthday, and yep. And so nice to talk with you. I hope your holidays were good for you and yours. And it is great to catch up and talk about fitness, especially this time of year. I tend to be a goal setting person, somebody who likes to think in terms of, kind of a plan. You have a really refreshing take on the new year. And you remind us always that fitness isn't necessarily about fixing ourselves. And so I want to talk about that for just a moment. And instead of overhauling everything in January, what is kind of the best way to apply ourselves, stick to some of the routines and the movement habits that we've already created? What do you say to people that really are of a mind that, okay, there's a severance in January, I'm going to go forward, but yet we don't have to necessarily fix ourselves at this time of year. We can adapt and maybe take what we've already got going and move it ahead.
I too enjoy setting a good goal.
Yeah.
A lot of my research on motivation is, included in that goal setting process. And what I can say is that one of the most empowering messages for adults, 55 and better, as you put it, is that you don't need to reinvent yourself every January.
Hmm.
From a behavioral science perspective, routines that already fit into your life are valuable assets. They're not limitations. So when movement habits are familiar, enjoyable, and sustainable, they're more likely to stick. And we know that aging well isn't about fixing something that's broken. It's about continuing to invest in what already supports your health, your independence, and quality of life. So, in other words, if you're enjoying a routine that works for you, stick with it. Now, that said, one of the reasons I like January and the new year is it is kind of reinvigorating.
Hmm.
And one important aspect of thriving is to grow and learn through exploration and experience. So, if you'd like to introduce something new to add to your current routine, then I'd recommend keeping it small and then building it over time. For example, if you've been doing weight training, let's say, with machines for a while, and you'd like to introduce something new, try replacing one of your resistance training days with a free weight workout, or try joining a group strength training class that uses an interesting piece of new to you equipment like kettlebells or suspension training.
I think that's wonderful. I like the idea of some variety. I think that it fits very well with many in our audience that want to have, you know, not so much a routine as a a life with fitness and enjoy those around them. But as Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council of Exercise, what does the science say? Because it really does support this idea that lasting behavior change can come from some of those kinds of shifts, but not necessarily big dramatic changes.
Definitely. Well, what the research does say is that lasting behavior change happens gradually through consistency rather than intense willpower. And this is especially true as we get older. So, smaller, repeatable actions that build confidence and competence are far more effective than these big dramatic overhauls that we often see people try to take on in the new year. And motivation tends to grow after people experience the benefits, not before.
Mm.
So you want to start with something that's manageable, and that's the most science aligned approach. And I like to think about it, I've said this before, but I like to think about it in terms of these three very important areas of motivation. Number one is autonomy, which just means doing the things that you choose to do, especially if you enjoy them. Number two is competence, which boils down to doing things that you're capable of doing very early on. So it really means you need to match your skills with the level of ability that you currently have. And then relatedness. So doing things with other people so that you create a sense of belonging that keeps you coming back for more.
Wonderful. As I say, I really do think that this time of year is important, and for me, it means kind of setting those goals, even creating some resolutions. And we've talked about the six pillars of wellness previously, and they're wonderful in terms of how they might bring about a particular resolution. And I wonder if you talk about this idea of movement, stress management, and social connection as perhaps being a more realistic resolution than some grandiose plan or expectation that you might have of yourselves.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it, Paul, because these six pillars that we've talked about before really are just about your lifestyle as a whole. And it's about creating a framework that's a little bit different than the traditional New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on one narrow goal, um, we can think about how movement supports stress management, social connection, and then overall resilience.
Mhm.
So when physical activity becomes a way to manage daily stress or spending time with others, then it stops being a task and it starts becoming part of a well-rounded life. And so one thing to try to do is to start connecting movement with the stress coping benefits, and also connect movement with its ability to create lasting relationships with people who move with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, physical activity can release neurotransmitters in the brain that make you feel more positive immediately while you're doing it. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to do some movement outside around some green grass and trees, even better, that tends to have a more positive effect. And then exercising with others, of course, creates this sense of belonging as you move together toward a common goal. And that can be something as simple as just finishing an exercise class together, or finishing walking the mile that it takes to go to grab coffee with your friend. So it's these things that kind of show that movement can be related to the rest of your life in very healthy ways.
This time of year, we see an awful lot of programming and messaging and even, kind of drum beating about the subject of fitness and resolutions, as we've kind of talked a little bit about. So there's a lot of noise about this subject. And I wonder if you'd tell us maybe what's one of the most persistent exercise myths that crops up every January, but one that doesn't serve the 55 audience very well, one that's perhaps a negative myth.
Well, every January, and it's not January, honestly, it's all the time.
Uh-huh.
We often see the same thing happening, and it's these ideas that are created often by influencers that make you feel like there's something about you that you need to fix.
Mhm.
And these messages do not serve us well. Um, and so one of the best filters is to ask, does this advice or message or advertising campaign respect where I am today? So the evidence-based movement adapts to the person, not the other way around. So look for programs or offerings that are inclusive and that cater to people of all backgrounds and abilities. So if you want to try something new in the new year, just make sure that there's a way to personalize it and make it work for you. And right off the bat, if the message is one that is intended to make you feel bad about yourself so that you'll buy something to fix it,
Yeah.
I immediately and instantly uh, keep scrolling. I look for something else because it's just not. It might get people to purchase something, impromptu, like a quick purchase, but then over time, those things don't really help motivation thrive, and they don't really make us feel that good.
So on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have this really nice way, a very powerful science-based way of saying that movement is more than exercise. And I wonder if you just talk about the difference there and how just embracing everyday movement can make staying active for us even feel more achievable and more meaningful for our audience.
Well, there is a difference in terms of how scientists look at it between the word exercise and physical activity. And when we think of exercise, it's just a planned, structured time for movement with specific goals. Maybe they're fitness goals like increasing your aerobic capacity or building strength. But physical activity and just movement in general is much broader. So it includes just how we move our bodies throughout the day. And what we know from the evidence is moving our bodies throughout the day, whether it's walking to the mailbox, gardening, carrying groceries, playing with your kids or your grandkids, these all count toward improved health. And when I say improved health, I do mean things like prevention of chronic disease, like heart disease and diabetes and things that tend to plague large proportions of our society. So when we can embrace everyday movement, then physical activity becomes more accessible. It's less intimidating and it's easier to maintain over time. And for people who aren't currently active, so they don't have a structured exercise program, it's this kind of movement that really helps introduce physical activity into their lifestyles that's manageable and will definitely improve health. So those are a few things to like, put in your pocket, pull out later when you're thinking, I didn't really have time to work out today, air quotes. But I do have time to go, take a quick walk around the block, or I do have time to maybe utilize some of the equipment that I put in my little exercise corner, my yoga mat and my hand weights. So thinking that exercise or moving your body can only be beneficial if it's a structured 30 to 60-minute workout, I think sometimes stops us before we even start. So maybe reframing that idea.
We are just getting started. If you think fitness over 55 is all treadmills and to-do lists, think again. Coming up, Dr. Sabrena Jo takes us into the real heart of healthy aging, how purpose fuels movement, why connection keeps us consistent, and the everyday actions that matter more than any New Year's resolution ever could. Dr. Jo has got practical tips, a few myth-busting surprises, and one joyful story about movement that might just change how you see you and your fitness routine, including walking around the block in 2026. So stay with us. You won't want to miss what's next. All right, we're going to be right back with Sabrena Jo. I mentioned our sponsor today is Cozy Earth. And since we're talking about the new year and some resolutions and kind of resetting, every January I do this. I take stock of how I want the year to feel, not just what I want to do, but how I want to live. That's just part of my nature. And for me, that fresh start doesn't begin with a big to-do list, as we've talked about with Sabrena, but certainly it starts at home. A calm space, soft textures, comfort I can feel every day. That's why Cozy Earth has become a real part of how I reset. After the holidays, what I crave most is rest. We are busy during the holidays, especially now with the grandson. With the rest, it's not just sleep, but the kind of rest that helps me feel clear, focused, and recharged for the year ahead. Honestly, Cozy Earth delivers that. I refreshed my bedroom with their Baja bedding collection. It's beautiful, light, and gives the room a clean, peaceful feel. I work in my home office, and so I immediately exhale as I leave the bedroom and go into my office. The textures, the colors, there's nothing loud or trendy about it. It just feels good. And the bath towels, well, those have changed my mornings, honestly. Cozy Earth's Luxe towels are thick, but somehow dry quickly. That's a key for me, the drying quickly part. With all my exercise, I need the towel to be absorbent. The Cozy Earth Luxe towels are soft without feeling too delicate. It's a small upgrade, but it makes a big difference when you're trying to start your day with some exercise, with some clarity, and with some calm. To me, Cozy Earth isn't just about bedding or towels. It's about creating a space where I can feel grounded and rested. That's part of this new year reset. And when the home feels peaceful, I feel ready to take on everything outside of it. Here's the thing. Cozy Earth stands behind what they make. You get a 100-night sleep trial. So if it's not for you, send it back. No hassle. But once you feel this kind of comfort, you'll understand why they back it with a 10-year warranty. Start the new year off right and give your home the luxury it deserves and make home the best part of life. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code NOB for up to 20% off. This is going to be in our show notes, but that's CozyEarth.com. NOB is the code. If you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the show. It's a fresh start, and I truly believe it starts at home with comfort that carries you through the rest of your day. That's what Cozy Earth gives me, and I think it could do the same for you. Thanks, everybody. We are with, of course, Dr. Sabrena Jo, who is the Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. We're talking about the year-end fitness review, some things that are really wonderful in the way of forward-looking encouragement from Dr. Jo, who gives us this idea that our fitness goals really can be about resetting, not always about restarting, that our physical activity routines can modify during these times of year. And so, Dr. Jo, it's always so great to talk to you. I want to talk to you for just a minute about this idea of motivation, especially for our audience as they age. It's not always about weight or appearance. It's more about staying independent, functional exercise, enjoying time with our grandkids. Certainly, that's one at the top of the list for me. But it's about, I think, staying mentally sharp too. And so, how do we kind of achieve some of these deeper motivations that really are going to sustain a healthy movement routine?
Well, Paul, you did a good job of just describing what it means to you,
Yeah,
the grandkids and
yeah.
whatnot. And really that's the key. It's like it's very personal. So as people age, motivation often shifts away from appearance, and it focuses on function, independence, and mental health. And that's a powerful shift. When movement is connected to staying steady on your feet or traveling around the world confidently or keeping up with family, it becomes very personal and meaningful. And those intrinsic motivations are far more sustainable than external pressures. And by external pressure, I mean the pressure that maybe society is telling you that you need to look a certain way or weigh a certain weight. Um, and those things, again, don't really help motivation thrive over time. So again, I'll mention the autonomy, competence, and relatedness concepts that we talked about a little earlier,
Yeah.
because when those basic psychological needs are met, then they become huge drivers of maintaining a person's motivation throughout life.
Mm.
And the beautiful thing about it, but it does make it a little bit more complex, is I can't tell you what those motivations should be for you. Um, you have to figure that out for yourself. And everyone has a different idea of what that means to them.
Mhm. As part of it for me, to personalize this just a little bit, I really enjoy the social connection that comes through fitness and the community building and the community activity. And it's something that you stress. And I really enjoy that aspect of our conversation. And I know that it's important to all of us. And certainly it's a big important element to our audience on a very personal level. And so whether it's, you know, walking in a group or just a kind of one-on-one partner routine in terms of exercise, or just perhaps a shared goal, because sometimes you even have talked about maybe getting on your cell phone and talking to somebody else who might be far away, but that physical activity makes the whole thing just so much more enjoyable. So stress that for a second. Really drive this point home as you do so well.
Yes, well, community is one of the most underestimated drivers of physical activity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think people don't really think of that social connection, that pillar of health, as not only even related to physical activity, but even being that important. And what we know is that nothing could be further from the truth. Social connection and community is essential to living a long, healthy life.
Hmm.
So you know, through my lens, when I look at these pillars of health and community, I try to think of how physical activity is connected to these pillars of health. And it's just such a natural, easy fit to move with other people because it really checks both of those boxes. So, like you said, whether it's walking in a group or meeting a friend for a walk to a coffee shop for a nice catch up, um, or it could be something as simple as having like a group chat with a group of friends who are all on a mission to be more active. Just sharing your goals and chatting about it with someone else increases social connection. It increases your enjoyment. And the evidence does show that it increases consistency. And we seem to be wired to move together, and that really doesn't change with age. So everyone, if you can, I would recommend taking advantage of that social connection during movement.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. One of the things that certainly comes to mind to many as they begin to reset their exercise routines this time of year is perhaps some stiffness, some fatigue. Maybe experiencing some chronic conditions with their own, kind of mobility. And you advocate that we need to check in with our body and not necessarily push through pain. And I really think that that's an important element in this. And so, what are some of the signs that you notice, especially from a science perspective, that we're doing enough, even if it doesn't look like a traditional workout might not always be a weightlifting workout?
That's a great question because we often focus on some of the symptoms or the negative aspects of doing too much.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy how you framed this question because what you're really asking is, what are the feel good benefits of doing an exercise program and then knowing that it's working, right? And I kind of think of these signs that are signs that have nothing to do with your weight or how you look. And I love that because it's being active is so much more than about those things. So so I think about those pillars of health. So do you have improved energy throughout the day? So not just in the beginning of the day, but throughout the day. Sometimes people notice a significant increase in their stamina, their vitality, once they take on an exercise program, which is often surprising because they often think, oh, if I exert myself, I'm going to be more tired. And that might be true in the very beginning, but then over time, your body adapts and you actually experience less fatigue throughout the day, the better and more consistent you are with your activity. People often experience better mobility. And so mobility is an interesting word because some people think it means flexibility. And that could be a component of it, but mobility really is your ability to function and move about your day like you want to, without slowing down, without the stiffness or the soreness. So being physically active, so moving the joints, really just ensures that they're better able to move in life. And then I would also tack on that, having more energy and more mobility just helps you feel confident with your daily tasks. Like you can look forward to your day tomorrow and know that, hey, yeah, I can get my list of tasks done. I'm going to have the energy and the confidence to do it. And then a huge part of this, of course, is sleep. And we know that being physically active improves someone's ability to not just fall asleep, but get down into those deeper stages of sleep where the body really does restore and heal. And so I would look at those things that have nothing to do with maybe a goal of losing weight, but they sure do improve the rest of the other health markers that we always talk about.
Let me drill down for just a second with you and ask the question about time. If we only have 10 minutes, say, a day, what are just some very small, practical routines that you've seen that can make a meaningful difference for older adults, particularly in these areas of balance and strength and mood?
I've mentioned before some things I like to do in the home, just throughout the day, like in between, like a walk from the office to the kitchen to the bathroom. Like, a lot of people work from home today, so if you're breaking up your routine. So what we do know is that if you do sit a lot throughout your day, which means you're being sedentary typically, if you can stand up every hour for 5 to 10 minutes, that you're going to be much better off in terms of metabolic health and cardiovascular health. So these little 10-minute things that you're describing, if you can place them throughout the day, even better. But if you can only do 10 minutes here and there throughout the week, that will also help. So things like, using your countertop to do balance work, like standing on one leg and holding onto the countertop for a little bit of assistance, maybe doing that while you're brushing your teeth. Maybe you've heard of that balance
Yeah,
trick.
definitely.
I also like to use countertops for squatting and lunging as an assist, also for doing push-ups as an assist.
Mm.
I like to use things in the home like chairs, or even if you've got like resistance bands in your home that you can attach to a doorway or a banister even. Things that stay out and visible in your space that you know that you can do a quick exercise or movement here or there throughout your day, I think will go a long way toward helping people feel like they've achieved something, even if they don't have the traditional time of the hour-long, allocated time to do structured exercise.
Dr. Jo, just a few more questions. I know you're very busy, and we sure appreciate the time to talk about kind of a year-end in review. So I have a question for you about movement. And if you could pick one movement and habit that you personally want to kind of deepen over the course of 2026, what would it be and why?
I'm going to say walking,
Mm.
because to me, I talk about it a lot, and I think it's underappreciated in terms of not just the physical aspects that it brings, but the mental benefits as well. Because what I'd like to drill down a little bit more and do more is intentional walking with the intention of exploring. So as the weather gets a little nicer in springtime, I really want to set out on walking in different areas and neighborhoods that I'm just not familiar with. And it just kind of, it brings out the explorer in me. And even though it's right here in my own town, I just, even if it means I drive a couple of minutes away and walk a neighborhood that I'm not used to, there really is something kind of refreshing and inspiring about taking in a new environment.
That's a wonderful idea. I love that idea. I think I'm gonna take that one too. That's fantastic. Okay, so great to talk with you, and we will talk again soon.
Always a pleasure, Paul. Can't wait till next time.
That's it for today's episode of Live Long Better. A quick reminder to check out our sponsor, Cozy Earth, at cozyearth.com and use our code NOB for up to 20% off. Make this the year your home helps you feel your best, inside and out. Refresh your routines with comfort that makes every day feel like a new year. What a way to kick off 2026. A huge thank you always to Dr. Sabrena Jo, the Senior Director of Science and Education at the American Council on Exercise. Dr. Jo reminds us that healthy aging isn't about chasing trends or starting over. It's about building on the strength, wisdom, and movement we've already learned. So whether it's a morning stretch, a walk with a neighbor, or simply giving yourself credit for what you are doing, keep moving and keep meaning it. To hear more episodes like this one, including our Live Long Better series, including our full archive of inspiring conversations, head over to notold-better.com. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at notoldbetter and Instagram at notoldbetter for more insights, encouragement, community, and everything behind the scenes. This episode is a production of NOBS Studios. For all of us here working on your behalf in 2026 and beyond, I'm Paul Vogelzang. Thank you for spending time with us today. Have a healthy, meaningful, and joyful start to 2026. Be well. Let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show. I hope you'll join me again next time. Live long better, move smarter, stay stronger, find meaning in motion. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.